Contemporary psychologists posit that the two-dimensional images appearing in dreams are mere illusions. However, in a certain sense, they are actually manifestations of entities from a higher dimensional reality. In this broader dimensional realm, I find myself capable of touching these images and even transforming them into objective realities. This revelation has sparked profound contemplation regarding the relationship between consciousness and reality. Many individuals witness events before they actually occur, implying that in our three-dimensional world, events are observed before they unfold. People believe that events can be observed before they occur, suggesting that life on Earth may exist in another dimension and gradually unfold in our reality. If observed events do not originate from this world, logically speaking, they must come from elsewhere. Anything observable before it occurs here must, from the perspective of someone living in a three-dimensional world, be predetermined. So, can we alter the course ahead? Lessons from living in 4 dimensions. I aim to underscore the potential of each individual and demonstrate our capacity to shape our own futures. Once we make changes, our future begins to follow a predetermined path from that point onward. Looking forward, a future consistent with the changes we make. The future of humanity is renowned for its remarkable flexibility, with attitudes often exerting more influence than actions. The human concept forms the basis of all self-conception, with actions and experiences being direct results of self-awareness, devoid of other influencing factors. If one's understanding of oneself is altered, so too are their actions. Altering one's self-conception has a direct impact on their future, and any changes in future experiences also affect their self-conception. Seemingly inconsequential assumptions can yield significant repercussions, underscoring the importance of reconsidering our views of assumptions. Acknowledging their capacity to affect change, individuals undergo transformations within the realm of consciousness. Despite meticulously planned futures, there may be multiple outcomes. We continually face decisions regarding the paths of our lives. Every individual holds 2 distinctly different views of the world, one rooted in the natural and the other more spiritual. In the natural realm, we can discern them as parts of our everyday consciousness, influenced by our senses, and a focused imagination driven by our desires. Reality is confined to the present moment, in a straightforward perspective, where the past and future exist only in our imagination. However, the spiritual perspective perceives the content of time differently, viewing events as independent entities, much like objects in space. The spiritual view regards the past and future as a unified whole. In the present, the understanding of spiritual individuals differs from that of natural individuals. Our limited perception impedes us from seeing the true essence of things. To cultivate the ability to perceive the unseen, it is essential to regularly detach our thoughts from sensory evidence and focus our attention on an invisible state. Through spiritual experiences and perceptions, we can make it feel as real as our physical environment. When deeply immersed in focus on something, other distractions fade away. All we need to do is concentrate on the desired state, and we will see it. By shifting our attention from the material realm to the invisible realm, we can develop a spiritual perspective. This enables us to perceive things unseen. Through practice, we can learn to harness our imagination to shape the future according to our desires. Understanding the desires that drive action is crucial. Without the desire to act, we cannot even lift a finger. We are always pursuing the desires that currently control our thoughts, regardless of our actions. When our desire for change surpasses the motivation to continue as we are, breaking habits becomes more appealing. The desire that propels us into action arises when we recognize what is lacking in our lives, generating a longing for something that can bring us greater joy and fulfillment. Desires typically stem from personal interests, and as the anticipated benefits increase, so does the intensity of desire. Fundamentally, every desire is selfish. Without potential benefits, there is no motivation, and thus no action. Spiritual individuals use the language of desire to communicate with natural individuals. Understanding and following the guidance of life is crucial for personal growth and realizing our aspirations. Wholeheartedly adhering to its guidance is an immediate acceptance of what is desired. If you want something, you can have it. According to Pascal, if you are seeking something, it implies you have already found it. Believing your desires have been fulfilled and living and acting accordingly, you can shape the future to align with your beliefs. Assumptions make what they affirm real. Once a person genuinely believes their desire has been fulfilled, their inner self naturally finds ways to achieve it. And it unveils the methods required for its realization. There is no better way to understand how to achieve our goals than imagining them already achieved. The concept of causality is fundamental, and the four-dimensional self utilizes its broader perspective to create the necessary tools for achieving desired outcomes. Accepting states that contradict the senses may be challenging for an undisciplined mind. Below is a simplified technique for encountering events beforehand, allowing you to envision things not yet visible. Many individuals often underestimate the importance of straightforward concepts. However, this specific formula for changing the future has been revealed through years of exploration and experimentation. To change the future, you must start with a strong desire, clearly define your goals, and know precisely what you want. Next, create an event that you believe will occur after your desire is realized. This event should signify the fulfillment of your desire and should be something within your control. Thirdly, for easier understanding, you can begin by comfortably lying in bed or sitting in a chair, pretending to be drowsy. Close your eyes and focus your attention on the actions you imagine. Try to mentally place yourself in the scenario and imagine yourself actually doing the action. It's crucial to fully engage in the imagined action at the present moment, rather than merely observing from afar. You should strive to genuinely experience yourself performing the action. Make the sensory experiences in your imagination feel real. Always remember that the actions you take should align with your desires. Additionally, immerse yourself fully in the action until it feels real and vivid. For example, suppose your goal is to get promoted at work. Receiving congratulations is typically one of the things that happen after you achieve your goal. Choose this action for imagination, and focus on relaxing your body, entering a state of relaxation similar to sleep, but where you can still guide your thoughts, staying alert and focused without feeling tense. Imagine a friend standing in front of you, extending their hand to place yours in theirs. Start to feel the solidity and reality of it, then engage in a fictional conversation that aligns with the event unfolding, imagining yourself being congratulated for your success in the present moment. Now, let's focus on the present and the future. Future events are a reality on a larger dimension, surprisingly equivalent to our everyday three-dimensional space. Understanding the difference between experiencing the current moment and imagining yourself in action can determine one's success or failure. Through my experiences, I've learned the importance of simplifying and clarifying imagined actions. By focusing on a single action and repeating it, we can make it vivid and feel real. Otherwise, our attention may drift, filled with a plethora of related images that, within seconds, lead us far from our intended destination, both spatially and temporally, hundreds of years away. It's crucial to focus on a specific action if we choose to climb a particular set of stairs. We need to concentrate on the act of climbing, treating it as a genuine action until it becomes vivid and real in our minds. This concept should be conveyed in a way that requires minimal effort, ensuring that our thoughts easily grasp the feeling of the desire being fulfilled. A slight drowsiness can aid us in maintaining focus without requiring too much effort. However, we shouldn't allow ourselves to fall into a deep sleep, as it would make it difficult to control our attention. Instead, it's best to maintain a moderate state of drowsiness where we can still guide our thoughts. One way to turn our desires into reality is to imagine and feel as though they've already been fulfilled. In a calm and relaxed state, we can repeat a simple phrase, akin to a soothing lullaby, implying that our desires have been realized. This can be accompanied by a sense of gratitude, as if we're thanking a higher power for making it all happen. On the other hand, if we wish to explore a broader realm, we need to remain active until falling asleep, vividly imagining what you would experience if you achieved your goal, ultimately encountering it in reality as envisioned. Nurturing the mind with premises believed to be true, for even if assumptions seem unrealistic, when consistently accepted, they can become facts and start to feel real. All means supporting the assumption's realization are deemed beneficial, with profound effects on individuals, guiding their actions, speech, and behavior towards achieving its objectives. To understand how individuals shape their futures in alignment with their assumptions, grasping the concept of a dimensionally larger world is crucial. This larger world is the realm where we venture to change the future. When we observe events before they occur, it indicates that the event has already been set in our three-dimensional perspective. Thus, to alter conditions in the three dimensions of space, we must first modify them in the four-dimensional space. For humans, grasping the concept of a world larger in dimension poses challenges. They may reject the existence of a self in such a world. While they have a good grasp of length, width, and height, believing in a fourth dimension would seem as obvious to them as the other dimensions. A dimension is not merely a line, it encompasses various ways of measuring an object, each distinct from the others. To measure a solid in the fourth dimension, we can measure it in any direction other than its length, width, and height. Are there alternative ways to measure objects besides length, width, and height? Time quantifies my existence. Without using the three dimensions, an object cannot appear or disappear instantly. You can easily measure its appearance and disappearance, as it lasts for a specific duration. Measuring its lifespan doesn't require complex measurements like length, width, and height. Width and height. Time indeed is the fourth way to measure objects. The more dimensions an object possesses, the more substantial and real it becomes. A line entirely confined to one dimension gains shape, mass, and substance by increasing dimensions. The fourth dimension, time, brings forth new traits, elevating it far beyond the surface, much like how a line seems compared to a point. Time serves as the medium for undergoing change, as all change requires time. The new trait is variability. Observing that if we divide a solid, its cross-section would be a surface. By dividing a surface, we get a line. By dividing a line, we obtain a point. This implies that a point is merely a cross-section of a line, and a line is a cross-section of a surface, and a surface is a cross-section of a solid, and so on. If we follow this logical conclusion, it leads to a cross-section of a four-dimensional object. We cannot avoid the inference that all three-dimensional objects are nothing but cross-sections of four-dimensional objects. This means that when I meet you, I encounter a cross-section of your four-dimensional self, which is invisible. To see the four-dimensional self, I must see every cross-section or moment of your life, from birth to death, considering them all as coexisting. My focus should be on all sensory impressions you experience on Earth, plus those you may encounter. I should see them not in the order you experience them, but as a whole in the present, as change is a characteristic of the fourth dimension. I should see them as part of a vivid, flowing animation. If we firmly fix all of these in our minds, what does it mean for us in this three-dimensional world? It means that if we can move along the length of time, we can see the future and change it according to our will. The world we perceive as so real is actually a shadow, from which we can step out at any time and transcend it. It's something abstracted from a more fundamental, larger dimensional world, which is abstracted from an even more fundamental, larger dimensional world, and so on, infinitely extending. It is something absolutely unattainable by any means or analysis. No matter how many dimensions we add to this world, humans can prove the existence of a larger dimensional world by focusing on an unseen state and imagining themselves seeing and feeling it. If one maintains focus in this state, their current environment will disappear, and they will awaken in a larger dimensional world, with the object of their contemplation being perceived as a concrete objective reality. Intuitively, I sense that if one withdraws their thoughts from this larger dimensional world and further retreats into their inner being, they will once again trigger the externalization of time. They will find that every time they retreat inward and trigger the externalization of time, space becomes larger dimensional. Thus, they would conclude that time and space are continuous, and the drama of life is merely climbing a multidimensional block of time. Scientists will one day explain why there is a continuous universe, but in practice, how to utilize this continuous universe to change the future is more important. To change the future, we only need to focus on two worlds within the infinite: the world we perceive through our bodily senses and the world we perceive independently of bodily organs. Lesson 2: Hypotheses turn into facts. People believe in the reality of the external world because they do not know how to concentrate and consolidate their own power to penetrate its weak shell. This book has only one purpose: to unveil the veil of the senses and enter another world. To unveil the veil of the senses, we do not need to exert great effort. The objective world disappears when our attention shifts. We just need to concentrate on the desired state so that we can see it mentally. But to give it reality and make it an objective fact, we must focus our attention on the intangible state until it becomes real. When through focused attention, our desires seem to have a clear sense of reality and feeling, we have already given it the right to become a visible concrete fact. If it is difficult to control the direction of attention in a sleep-like state, staring at an object can be helpful. Instead of just looking at its surface, gaze at a flat object with depth, such as a wall, a carpet, or any object with depth, minimizing reflections. Then imagine that within this depth, you see and hear what you want to see and hear until your attention is completely occupied by the imagined state. As your meditation ends, when you awaken from the lucid dream you controlled, you will feel as if you have returned from a distant place. The visible world excluded from your consciousness re-enters, and through its presence, it tells you that you once believed falsely that the object of your contemplation was real. But if you acknowledge consciousness as the sole reality, you will remain faithful to your vision and confirm the reality you have endowed through this persistent mindset, proving your capability to manifest your desires and make them visible concrete facts. Define your ideals. Focus your attention on thoughts that align yourself with your ideals. Assume their embodiment, and feel how you would feel as the embodiment of your ideals. Then, live and act based on this belief. Even if denied by the senses, if persisted, this assumption will turn into reality. When you simply observe people you know in your mind and engage in dialogue with yourself, you are less inhibited and more genuine than in actual conversations with others. Therefore, the opportunity for self-analysis arises when you are surprised by the psychological dialogues between you and others. If you see them as you've seen them before, then you haven't changed your concept of self, because any change in the concept of self leads to a change in relationship with the world. In your meditation, let others see you as they see you. With this new concept of self, a tangible fact, you always appear to others as the embodiment of the ideals you inspire. Thus, in meditation, as you contemplate others, you must allow them to see you psychologically as they see you physically if your concept of self is an objective fact. In other words, in meditation, you imagine them seeing you as you express yourself to be. If you assume you are what you desire to be, then your desires are fulfilled, and in fulfillment, all desires are neutralized. You cannot continue to desire something you have already achieved. Your desire is not something you strive to achieve, but the recognition of something you already possess. It is the feeling of assuming the identity of the person you aspire to be. However, if your desire is for the benefit of others, then in meditation, you must present them to yourself as if they have already become the kind of person you desire them to be. It is through desire that you transcend your present reality, shortening the path from desire to fulfillment, because you experience in imagination all that you would experience if you were already the embodiment of your ideal. I once said that every moment presents a choice for a person, determining which of several futures they will encounter. But the question arises, how is this possible when a person's waking experiences in the three-dimensional world are predetermined, as implied by their observation before events occur? If we liken life experiences on Earth to this printed page, this ability to change the future would become evident. Humans upon the Earth experience events singly and continuously, much akin to your current engagement with the text upon this page. Ponder, if you will, that each word upon this page represents a singular perception. To grasp my meaning, fix your gaze upon the upper left corner's initial word, then proceed from left to right, directing your focus to each word singularly and in sequence. As your eyes alight upon the final word upon this page, my intent shall be apprehended. Yet, suppose you regard the entirety of this printed page. Should you opt to rearrange them, an entirely disparate tale could be told. Indeed, multiple narratives could be woven. Mastery over the movement of our attention within the four-dimensional realm grants us the conscious ability to craft scenarios within the three-dimensional world. Through lucid dreaming, we acquire proficiency in this manipulation, wherein our focus can be effortlessly sustained. For in the alteration of the future, effortless attention is indispensable. Within lucid dreams, we may consciously construct events we wish to experience within the three-dimensional realm. The sensory impressions utilized to construct lucid dreams represent a displacement in time's reality, or rather, a reality within the four-dimensional realm. During the construction of lucid dreams, all we undertake is the selection from a multitude of sensory impressions, implying our desires have been realized once properly arranged. Upon delineating our dreams, relaxation may be sought upon a chair. Induce a state of consciousness akin to sleep, though retaining conscious control over the movement of our attention. As we attain such a state, we undergo in imagination what we would in reality, rendering this lucid dream an objective fact. In the application of this technique to alter the future, it must be borne in mind that the sole occupant of our thoughts is the lucid dream, signifying predetermined action, hinting at the fulfillment of our desires. How the lucid dream materializes into physical fact is of little concern. Accepting the lucid dream as a physical reality serves as a means to its realization. Allow me to once again lay the groundwork for altering the future. This is naught but a controlled lucid dream. Define your objectives clearly, knowing precisely what you desire. Construct an event that you believe you would encounter upon the fulfillment of your wishes. In a sense, this event will possess self-directed actions, hinting at the realization of your desires. Render your body immobile, induce a state of consciousness akin to sleep, then, from start to finish, envision yourself undertaking the proposed action. Simultaneously, imagine yourself actually executing this action, experiencing in imagination what you would in the flesh if your goals were achieved at present. Lesson 3: Your marvelous imagination. People assert that true judgment must align with the external reality it pertains to. This implies that if I were to suggest to myself in prison that I am free, and successfully believe myself to be so, I am convinced of the reality of my freedom. Yet, this does not necessarily mean I am truly free, for I may be a victim of illusion. However, due to my own experiences, I have come to believe in many strange things, leaving me with scant reason to doubt the truthfulness of matters beyond my experimental scope. We are asked to deny the evidence of our senses and imagine our neighbor as real, thus setting them free. You must come to know the truth, for it shall set you free. To comprehend the truth of our neighbor, we must assume they have become the person they wish to be. Any conception we hold of another individual, if not reflective of their desired state, will not set them free and therefore cannot be considered truth. Instead of learning crafts in the traditional sense, where apprenticeship and workshops are deemed alternatives for self-acquired knowledge, my schooling was almost entirely devoted to the power of imagination. I spent hours imagining myself as someone other than who my reason and senses indicated, until the imagined state became as vivid as reality itself. So much so that passers-by became a part of my imagination, behaving in the manner I wished them to. Through the power of imagination, my fantasies guided them, dictating their actions and interactions as I remained in my imagined state. During meditation, as the mind becomes bright, I found my imagination possessed a magnetic force to attract anything I desired. Desire is the force by which imagination shapes my surrounding life, just as I shape it within myself. I first desire to see a person or scene. Then, I gaze as if I am seeing what I wish to see, and the imagined state becomes objectively real. I desire to hear, and then I listen as if I am hearing, the imagined voice speaking the words I command as if it were the originator. I could furnish you with many examples to substantiate my contention, proving these imagined states indeed manifest into material reality. Yet I know my examples will provoke the most natural skepticism in those who have not encountered similar circumstances or lean not toward my argument, for I summon unseen things in deep meditation as though they are seen, and those unseen not only become visible, but ultimately materialize into reality. By first desiring, then imagining ourselves experiencing what we desire, we can harmoniously shape the future with our wishes. But let us heed the counsel of the prophets, only entertaining thoughts of beauty and goodness, for imagination waits on us indifferently and swiftly, whether our nature is wicked or virtuous. Good and evil, desire and imagination, are the wands of fable, drawing to themselves their affinities, most potent when the mind is in a state akin to sleep. I have delineated meticulously my methods of entering the larger dimension world, yet I shall provide another formula for unlocking the gates to a grander realm. In dreams, we are often servants to sight rather than its masters, but the inner fantasies of dreams can morph into external reality. In dreams, just as in meditation, we slip from this world into a larger dimension world. I know the forms in dreams are not flat. Two-dimensional images, modern psychologists believe them to be so. They are substantial, existing in the larger dimension world. I can grasp them. I find, if startled in a dream, I can seize any stationary or fixed dream form, such as a chair, table, stairs, or tree, and command it to wake up. While firmly grasping the objects in the dream, I was pulled through myself, feeling the unmistakable sensation of awakening in the lucid dream. Upon awakening, I found myself in another realm, holding on to the dream objects, realizing that I was no longer a servant to the vision but its master, as I was fully awake and able to control my attention. In this state of complete wakefulness, as we steer our thoughts, we speak of things as if they exist when they do not. In this state, we name things through desire and assumption, the feeling of our wishes fulfilled. Unlike the three-dimensional world, where there is a gap between our assumptions and their realization, in the larger dimension world, our assumptions are immediately realized, and external reality immediately reflects our assumptions. Here, there is no need to wait for months for harvest. We seem to see again, only to find the crops ripe for harvesting. In this greater dimensional world, you need not fight, just stand firm, steadfast, and behold, the salvation of the Lord is with you. Slowly traversing through our three-dimensional world, we can harmonize our world with our desires through imagination. Seeing as if you see, hearing as if you hear, reaching out with your imaginative hand as if you touch, your assumptions will turn into reality. For those who believe that true judgment must conform to its relevant external reality, this will be folly and stumbling block. But I preach and practice fixing in consciousness that which people desire to accomplish. Experience has taught me that things named as imagination, because their consciousness attitude does not conform to their relevant external reality, actually bring about existence. Reflecting on many past New Year's resolutions, they exist for a while, then disappear. Why? Because they were cut off from their source. Assume you are as you wish to be. Experience in imagination what you would experience if you were already as you wish to be. Be faithful to your assumption, thereby defining yourself as you assume yourself to be. Lesson 4. Changing your self-concept. The ideals we serve and strive to attain can never evolve from us if they are not inherently latent within our essence. Now, my purpose is to retell and emphasize an experience I had 2 years ago, an experience that has been imprinted upon me. I believe these excerpts from the search will help us understand the operation of the law of consciousness and tell us that we only change ourselves. Once, during a leisurely time at sea, I contemplated the realm of perfection and imagined what it would be like if I had 2 pure eyes to see no injustice, if all things were pure to me, if I condemned nothing. As I immersed myself in this fervent contemplation, I found myself lifted above the sensory darkness. The sensation was so intense that I felt like a being of fire suspended in the air. There was a voice, like that of a heavenly choir, accompanying the cheers of those who had once struggled with death and emerged victorious, singing, "He is risen, he is risen," and I intuitively knew they spoke of me. Then, it seemed I walked in the darkness, and soon encountered a scene, perhaps the pool of Bethesda of old, for there lay a great multitude of impotent folk, blind, halt, withered, not waiting for the troubling of the water as traditionally told, but waiting for me. As I approached, they were shaped one by one, as if by the magician of beautiful eyes, hands, and feet, all missing parts drawn from some invisible reservoir and made to harmonize with the perfection and harmony emerging within me. When all were perfectly shaped, the choir cried out, "It is finished." Then, the scene vanished, and I awoke. I knew this vision was the result of my intense contemplation of perfection, for my meditations always lead to unity with the state contemplated. I was completely absorbed in the thought, and for a time, I became the object of my contemplation. Noble ideals, once identified and embraced by me, attracted noble companions and shaped illusions in harmony with my inner nature. The ideals unified with us through the associative action of ideas, evoked 1,000 emotions, and created dramas consistent with the central thought. The mystical experience convinced me that external perfection cannot be achieved except through changing ourselves. In the divine order, nothing is lost, and we cannot lose anything unless it descends from the realm where it naturally lives, death with no transforming power. Whether here or there, we shape the world around us through the intensity of our imagination and feelings, and we illuminate or dim our lives through our concept of ourselves. For us, there is nothing more important than our concept of ourselves, especially concerning our inner greatness. Whether they realize it or not, Those who help or hinder us are servants of the law that shapes the external environment to be in harmony with our inner nature and concepts. It is our concept of ourselves that subjects us to this, although it may utilize material agencies to fulfill its purposes, for life molds the external world to reflect the inner arrangements of our minds, and there is no way to achieve the external perfection we seek except through changing ourselves. No external help is forthcoming. The hills we look up to are part of the internal mountain range. Thus we must turn our gaze inward to our consciousness, seeing it as the sole reality, the sole foundation that can explain all phenomena. We can absolutely trust the justice of this law, as it only gives us what is in accord with our own nature. Trying to change the world before changing our concept of ourselves is like struggling against the nature of things. There can be no external change without internal change. Inner and outer are in harmony. I am not advocating philosophical indifference when I suggest that we should imagine ourselves all ready to be what we wish to be, living in the grand atmosphere of spirit rather than using material means and arguments to effect the desired change. Without a change in consciousness, all our efforts are but superficial and futile adjustments. No matter how hard we struggle, we can only gain what our assumptions affirm. To oppose anything happening to us is to oppose the law of our being, the law of our dominion over our own destiny. My life environment is closely related to my conception of self, inevitably shaped by my soul from a greater dimension in which I exist. If these things bring me pain, I should search within myself for the reasons, for I am moved here and there, compelled to live in a world in harmony with my concept of self. Intense contemplation leads to unity with the state contemplated, in which we see illusions. Our experiences and actions are consistent with the changes in our consciousness, indicating that a shift in consciousness leads to changes in environment and behavior. All wars serve as ample evidence of the efficacy of violent emotions in facilitating psychological restructuring. Each major conflict is inevitably followed by an era of materialism and greed, wherein the ideals that initially sparked the conflict are overshadowed. This is inevitable, as war often breeds hatred, leading consciousness to descend from the realm of ideals to the level of conflict. If we could muster the same emotional fervor for our ideals as we do for things we dislike, we could ascend to the realm of ideals as effortlessly as we currently descend to the level of our animosity. Love and hate possess a magical transformative power, shaping us into the likeness of what we contemplate through their practice. Through intense emotional engagement with hate, we construct within ourselves the character we imagine in our enemies. The only thing that changes is our conception of the self. Once we successfully alter our self-conception, our world disintegrates and reshapes itself, in harmony with what our transformation affirms. Should you find interest in this video, please do not hesitate to like and subscribe. Once again, thank you for your viewership. If this video has inspired you or sparked any thoughts, please leave your valuable comments and share it, allowing more people to see and benefit from it. Many thanks, and until our next episode, farewell.